those stages are described to us in Gurbani as Bachpan, Jawani, and Budepa. Pehla garb vich aande, we come in the womb first, then we become children, then we become um, adults, and then after that we become the elderly, है ना? बुढ़ेपा आ जाता है. And those stages they happen quite quickly. So खास करके 10 stage in our life, we go from बचपन, so पहले प्यार लगा था ना दूध, the shabd that's covered in those chapters is about we fall in love with milk, दूजे माए बाप की सुध, then we start falling in love with our mothers and fathers, तीजे भैया भाभी babe, then it's our brothers, sisters, चौथे प्यार पन्नी खेड, then it's our खेलना, we start falling in love with playing, पंजवें खान पीन की धात, then it's about eating and drinking. So even our average person might even start shraba peen la poga, might start drinking, might start excessively eating. Shema kamana puche jat. Then we get into lustful stage, and then atwe satwe sanj kiya karvas. Then we say we want to get married, and we create a house. Then atwe krodh hua tananas. Then afterwards anger comes across it, and gussa destroys our body. Then naame tole ube sa daswe dadha hua swa. फिर बड़े हो जाते हैं, we get old, and then Guruji says finally 10th stage we have to leave this world. So in 10 stages we've lived and we've wasted our life basically in Maya. And after, if we understand those stages, we understand that the thing that we're trying to have, we're trying to grab something, we want some happiness here, or asaliyat, that's not true happiness, because that happiness is going to finish. So if you look around, everybody, someone wants a house, someone wants a car, someone wants to have riches, they want various things. And if I got power today, I'd get really happy thinking I've achieved something. But really, all of those things, Guruji says, they get wasted and they're gone. And it's not a difficult thing to understand. Everything that you did this morning, everything that you did, or you're doing it, it must be your morning then. Sorry, everything you've done today, everything you've done yesterday, or Sarah, is gone. You can't. It's not tangible anymore. All the things that you did yesterday, you can't access that time anymore. It's gone. Guruji showing us that every shin which, even I started this talk about 10 minutes ago or something. That time's gone. You can't get back to it. So Guruji says it's jhoot. That time is jhoot. Kal is jhoot. Only akal is true, है ना? So that's the human being part, and then we try to understand what's driving our lives. That we have many influences, and from those influences we become driven to a direction. Now you'll meet many people and they're driven to many directions, and from those directions we form identities. We think that that's what we are. So as we're growing older, we start saying, well, I'm a father, or I'm a brother, or I'm a doctor, or I'm a scholar, or I'm whatever. But all of those identities, they're jute identities as well. Even those, they're not true. So Guru's trying to make us work out, who are we? What are we? What are you? Guruji says, "Pe bande khoj dil har roz, na fir pareshani mae." If you don't want to live in regret, you're going to be in regret for a long time. Guruji says, look inside. Who are you? Tusi ki karde hain? Why have you come to this world? And when we get to the answer, who are we? What the book is trying to make us understand, and there's a shabd by Kabirji. Kabirji describes many things. Says, "Na, is this in I? It's not a dasi gristini hai. It's not a. It's not idol worshipper. It's not a body. What is it? What's the soul then? What is that soul? And if we recognize that our soul is really God, the soul is part of God. Kabir e Ram ke ans, it's from the family of God, the soul is. And understanding that, you all the things, that identities that we're putting together on ourselves and saying, maybe I'm this, maybe I'm this. You're not. You're none of those things. That we're Atma. and Atma can meet Paramatma, है ना? And like there's a shabd that comes in Gurbani pe Atma, Atma, Pratma, Eko kare, Antar ki dubda, Andar mare. That the dubda that we've got, that's the doubt. Jithe se confused ra, Guruji kills that doubt inside of us. Oh, andare maar dende Guru Sahib. And then your Atma can join with Paramatma. But that doubt and delusion, will come to that, what that is in a minute. Jiri, when we move on to the next chapter, the chapter's more about Karma philosophy. It's about a Karma philosophy. And whatever we do, we have to eat. Whatever we sow, we have to eat that later on. So we can do something today. And, I had a really good conversation with somebody just yesterday about this kind of thing. And they were asking that, when we look around in the world, it looks like jire bande corrupt hai, the ones who are doing putte kam, the ones who are doing bad things, they seem like they're getting further. They look like they're getting ahead in life. The people who are change, trying to do good things, being honest, even if someone's bad to them, they're good back. They always get the worst life, which is tarah lagda hai. And really, when we think about all of that, it might appear like that, but जो तुसी पिछे कीता है वो आज मिलदा है. What you do today, you're going to get tomorrow, है ना? So if someone's done changa, they've done good at the back, previously, they might get dealt a good hand here, what we call, the environment. When we say, जो तुसी जपजी साहब पढ़दे हैं पे हुक्मी होवन आकार, हुक्म न कहे हजाई, हुक्मी होवन जी, हुक्म मिले बड़ाई, हुक्मी उत्तम नीच, हुक्म लिख दुख सुख पाइए. एक ना हुक्मी बख्शीश, एक हुक्मी सदा पवाई है. हुक्म अंदर साहब को बाहर हुक्म ना कोई, नानक हुक्म जे बुझ है ਤਾਂ ਹਉਮੈ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ. Guruji is describing that here. ਤੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਬਖਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਮਿਲਦੀ ਆ, ਕਿਸ ਕੋਈ ਉੱਜੜ ਜਾਂਦਾ, gets problems, ਕਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਸੁੱਖ ਮਿਲਦਾ, ਕਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਦੁੱਖ ਮਿਲਦਾ, ਕਿਸ ਨੂੰ someone's going to have a long life, someone's going to have a short life. ਇਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਕਰਮ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੀਤੇ ਹੋ ਆ, and those actions that we've done, they're coming out in what we're doing today. But after today, what we're doing today is going to come out for us tomorrow. So this chapter, it describes all of that area, which is quite a complicated area sometimes, and it describes 3 guna of Maya. So obviously I'm not going to go through all the thing that the book's saying here, because I haven't got time, number one. But if you're interested, you should read it. But the Karma philosophy, or you can get to learn a lot of things by, if you understand that properly. Then you could change your life just on one chapter of this book. And I would say one of the most pertinent, the most important questions that gets asked in this whole, potentially in the book, is, when we do something and we fall into Maya, and what it does, Maya makes us act in certain ways, and it brings out the worst in us. But have you ever thought that you bring out a certain character in other people who are around you too? So if you're talking to your mother, you're talking to your friend, you're talking to someone you don't like, if you instigate something very negative in them, that action's on you. And that's it's a really important question that gets asked at the end of that chapter, because we sometimes do things in life, and what we're doing actually is making another person actually bad. It's bringing out a bad emotional response in them, and we do that all the time. And if we change even that, we become different people. So there's quite an important reflection part. And I didn't mention it, but at the end of every chapter, there are questions that help us reflect on our own life about that particular area. So I'm going to very quickly go through a couple more, and then I'll go a little bit more about some of the other motivations around the book. But slowing down, I've done mental health, kind of a basic area of mental health training. And we work so fast in our life, everything's running. We wake up in the morning, it's like work, children, work, children, work, eat, children, sleep, children. It's all that stuff, right? And if we keep doing our running our life like that, then um, there'll be a point where we're going to ask ourselves, what have I achieved? What did I achieve here while I was here? And it won't necessarily hit you while you're young, but as you get older, you start questioning it. So sometimes you've got to slow down and just and say, like, what's going on here? What's going on in my life? Am I doing the right things? Is this going to get me anywhere? And rethink it all. And when one of the surveys from England is quoted in that chapter, and it's some of the results are very they're very negative, if you like, in terms of how many people feeling down, feeling depressed, and some people suicidal, and various things are happening because life's overtaking them. So what I will say here, I mean, because I don't obviously just want to talk about what the book's talking about, but once I was speaking to one of my relatives, and I asked him a question, and I said to him, we were just talking about spirituality and Sikhi and stuff, and I asked him, I said, like, have you ever thought? Because why do you wake up in the morning? And he couldn't answer. He said, I don't know. He lived his whole life. We've lived our whole life. And I said, like, why do you wake up in the morning? And we don't know why we're waking up in the morning. It's ajeeb jahi gall hai, na? It's like I found that we're living our lives in some trance, like a dream. And it's just because it's so fast. And we wake up as a Gursikh, je Gursikhi di gal karni hai, we wake up for God, you know. We wake up for God in the morning. We don't wake up for work. And I think that's an important thing to remember, that our jagana shouldn't be set. Our alarms or whatever we do in the morning, they shouldn't be set to get up to work. If you're doing that, they might we should be our alarm and everything should be set to wake up for God, and we need to slow our lives down to make that happen. It moves on to kind of this toxic disease called home, and home is a really bad thing. Actually, it's actually, we're blind to it. We're blind to how we're acting in home, how it's why it's so toxic. And we home naave naal virod hai doe na bas ek thai. The chapter is called God versus ego, but never both, it's God or ego, but never both. You can't have God there and I can't be there if I'm talking about God. And if God's there, I can't be there, but if I'm there, God can't be there. And that concept gets discussed in there, but also how ego, it just pollutes everything that we do. There's a when we read Asa Ki War, there's a shabd in the bit, home which aya, home which gaya, home which jamya, home which muwa, home which ditta, home which laya, home which khatya, home which gaya. The shabd just keeps going about everything that we're doing, home chiya. Then we come in home, chale jande home which we haven't removed it. And so we have to obviously understand that, and how does ego get removed, gets covered in that chapter. But just a very interesting point of that chapter is that when Guruji says how much hasse, how much rove, that our life, we have a quite a cruel nature. Our nature is to laugh at others, and it's funny, we laugh at somebody else's downfall, but if the same thing happens to us, we cry. And that's what homage hasanat and homage rona is. So quite a lot covered in there. Now that's the first kind of roughly half of the book. The second half of the book is about, so that was the problem. The first half discusses the problem, and then it moves on to the solution of life. What is, how do we overcome this then? Okay, we understand we've got ego problem. We've lost our purpose. We don't know what's driving us anymore. We got the wrong drivers. How do my actions, how do they affect my life? And this ego, this disease, and how do I slow down and all that kind of. So that's the problem part. Then we move on to the solution. Do I need a guru? Why do I need a guru? You know, it's a very important, very, very important question. But more for a Gursik is like when I kind of ask a question to a lot of Gursiks in life, in workshops, and things like that. What's the Guru to you? What's the Guru to you? You know, people use these very broad answers where they say, Guru's everything, you know? And usually, if someone says the Guru's everything, Guru's nothing, you know? Yeah, it's because it's not personal. That kind of thing where you say Guru's everything. It's true, Guruji is everything, you know? But it normally means your relationship is very weak with the Guru. So it's how to develop the right kind of relationship with the Guru and Gurbani, why that's so important. Gurbani for us, Guru Ji ne those bachan, नाम प्रभु के जो रंग राते कल मैं सुखिए से गणी अवर उपाओ ना कोई सूझै नानक तरिए गुर बचनी Guru de bachan naal isi tarna aya, and we're going to get saved through this bachan, through these words. Now, you know, those words are nowadays, when you go Gurdwara, when we say, what's the Guru to arm person, they go to Sangat and you find out what the Guru is to a person based on what ardasa they get done. You know? What ardas are they doing to the Guru? You know, if my ardas is that, you know, I had a baby boy, Tika, then the Guru to you is that Shukrana, you know? Or a person might say, Guruji, I need a, you know, permanent stay in the country. Chalo theek hai. Then Guruji to you is Karaj Swar Deya. But that's like having a, it's like having a, you know, a sports car that goes, you know, 200 miles an hour and you're running it at 1 mile an hour. You know? That's not, Guruji is not, for Guruji's, Gur Satgur Bohal Har Naam Ka Vadpagi Sikh Gun Sanj Karawa. So Guruji's got loads of gun for us. And Sauda Ekat Hat hai. There's a Gurbani ਕਹਿੰਦੇ there's a you have a we're going to do a deal with the Guru. Sauda Ekat Hat hai. Shah Satgur Pura. All gun le gun vekane bachne da sura. So our Guru to us, we're doing a deal, and the deal's really good. It's a brilliant deal. It is. It's that I give the Guru my avgon, and the Guru gives me virtues back. Guru gives me gun. I give him my bad personality, and he gives me a beautiful one back. That's what the relationship is with the Guru. But we kind of made it more into a kind of a sort my stuff out for me, Guruji, and I'll see how much kind of effort I want to put into loving you back. That's even a worldly friend wouldn't stand with you for long if you treated them like that. Huh? So understanding what our relationship should be like with the Guru is covered there. Then staying connected. If we when we look at our lives, we have to stay connected with Waheguru uh, initially for as long as possible, and eventually with Kirpa, Guruji will make it stay for, you know, what Guruji says be art pair. So in this chapter we cover a section of our mind called Chit. It's a very, very important section of the man. Obviously Gur Mantar da Abhyas, but how do we keep that in our Chit? And doing bhakti properly. So there's a whole section there about how to stay connected. Then the virtues part, which is really the, you know, if we look at the essence of Sikhi, it's about virtues so that we can see God everywhere, developing those virtues. Oh, gone, Sadhguru Ji to. And you know the problem we have is that ਅਸੀਂ theory ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਬਹੁਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, we talk about what we call in Gurmat chonch gyan, but ਜਿਹੜਾ tat gyan to implement it is understanding how do we actually do that. So here we talk about all the virtues that Guruji says that um, if we want to be a soul bride, ਜਿਹੜੀ Suhagana has gone, and Dohagana doesn't. So we got to move our lives from being a Dohagan who's gotten a gone to developing these virtues that make us meet God. Um, you know, one of the things in there is about how Guruji gave Updesh. Guruji gave this Gunanda Updesh to everybody. He gave it to a Musliman, He gave it to a Muslim, he gave it to a Brahman, he gave it to a yogi, he gave it to everybody. He gave this Upadesh, and that Upadesh is so beautiful. If you understand how Guruji's done it, it's actually very, very clever what Guruji did, where Guruji took what they do. Like, for instance, if you look at a yogi said to meet God, they said, Asi ras banaunde hain, ras. They go, we make ras, and then we drink that ras, and asi mast rehinde hain all the time. And what they were really doing was making shrab. They were making alcohol. And this shabd where Guruji says, God kar gyan, dhyan kar dhave, kar karni kas paiye, पाठी पवन प्रेम का पोचा इत रस अमे चुवाइए बाबा मन मतवारो नाम रस पीवै सहज रंग रच रहे ehnis bani prem liv lagi shabd anahat gahya. So Guruji was telling these yogi that, you know, you can do all these things about making shrab, but you need these gun. God kar gyan, you need gyan, dhyan kar dhave, kar karni kas paiye, you good actions, jir change hai gaya, what we call parvirti karma, wo karne pende hai to meet God. So Guruji describes all these virtues in different ways to make all of these different faiths even understand that above you what you're practicing in your faith, these virtues are more important. And unfortunately, किसी से गुस्सा नहीं करना from what I'm about to say, you know. Personally, I think if Guruji came to us today, Guruji would say the same to us, ਵੀ ਆਪਣਾ ਕੜਾ ਸੰਤੋਖ ਬਣਾ ਲਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਦਸਤਾਰ ਨੂੰ, ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੁਣਾਂ ਦਾ ਚੇਤਾ ਭੁੱਲ ਗਿਆ ਸਾਨੂੰ. We're wearing all our bana, we're wearing all of these things, but we don't, our conduct is not in line with what Guruji wanted us to do. So there's a whole section there about those virtues. I'm nearly finished on the chapter. So the transformation and mysticism. There's a really, really interesting part of Sikhi is that it's an unditi dunya. This doesn't talk about the whole unditi dunya here, but there's an unditi uh, part of how we get a ras as well. How does the tongue start developing, you know, amrit ras? How do the ears start hearing anahad shabad, and how do our eyes get to see darshan? You know, the human being gets transformed through this guru's words here. So this talks about what transformation and mysticism is from a Sikhi perspective. And then almost finally, there's there's a saintly company. Why is Sad Sangat important? And I touched on it earlier. You know, in Sukhmani Sahib, ek shabad hunda na bhai, je ko apni sobha lod hai, Sad sange ho mein shor hai. No, sorry, char padarth je ko mange, Sad jana ki seva lag hai. Guruji says people go and do bhakti or they do Sikhi for many reasons. Koi sobha mangda ya. Someone says manu mukti chahidi ya. Someone says I need money. Manu arth chahida out of the char padarth. Someone else says mera manu dukh hai, I want to remove that dukh. Koi kehda main janam maran to darda ya. I'm afraid of dying, I'm reborn, dying, rebirth. But at the end of that Shabd, Guruji says, Jis jan ko prabh dars pyasa, nanak tanka bal bal jasa. Very rarely are we going to the Sangat to say, Manu, Satguruji de darshan and Waheguru de darshan ho jana. That my manorath, what I'm living my life for, is to get darshan of God. So saintly company, when we saw Sad Sangat ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ that ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ritual ਕਰਕੇ ਆ ਗਏ ਹਾਂ. Sad Sangat, there's actually a very, very important element to that about how we behave and how we act inside of Sangat and what we ask for. Because in Sad ke sang mukh ujjal ho, that's what it talks about there. It's about how mukh ujjala ho janda hai, mal sagali khot, mail le jandi hai. So it's kind of doing that thing where if we can re-evaluate how we're running our gurdwara, how we're going to the gurdwara, and what we're doing at the gurdwara, hopefully there could be some very, very the correct and positive change in that how we perceive Sad Sangat. But finally, serving selflessly. Sorry, this penultimate one, but serving selflessly. How to do seva, how to be grateful for our seva. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਤੋਂ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੁਣ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਮਿਲੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ, ਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਸੇਵਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਆ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲੀ, That we don't do that, है ना? Sikh नहीं करता इदा. Sikh says जो मैं किया सो मैं पाया, even if it's माड़ियां चीजां जो मैं कीता वो मैं पा लिया आ. Then and Guruji, we always do benti to Guru that jo main karda hai, whatever I'm doing is never going to be enough. I can only get anywhere with Guruji's kirpa. So this section is about how to serve selflessly, how to have gratitude, and how that is a very positive thing for your mental health as well. Then it comes to the knowing Waheguru. You know, if there's a important question, if say, how do you make Waheguru happy? I think that question gets answered in this chapter. How do I make Waheguru happy? You know, it's not just a single answer either. So Gurbani makes some of these things clear for us. By Satguru nu eh cheezaਂ paundiyan ਆ, Waheguru nu eh cheezaਂ paundiyan. This is how we make Waheguru happy, you know? And understanding what is Waheguru and how Waheguru closeness should be in your life, and even when you're doing Simran and different things. And the book concludes with, like, if someone doesn't really know where to start, there's 10 things to do that you could change your life with. That's basically the end to end of the. Finally, there's some interesting facts about the Sikh faith. So the reason for writing the book in this way was it was to remove the traditions a little bit out of the way. Gaveri, we've clouded the picture of our Sikhi because the traditions get in the way. So if there's somebody who's got an interest in Sikhi, sometimes we start saying Dastar Sajala. That Tika, Dastar Sajani important, Anna. But that's not where we should start. Sometimes we quickly say, Amra Chakana Pena Dhanu. Anna. And really, there's a massive foundation to be understood. Then all of those things make much more sense. And the idea was to remove the traditions out of the way for a second and say, what's the plight of this soul? This Atma is lost. You know? At least understand the journey for this Atma first. Then all of those other things will make a lot more sense about the Panchakari Red and all the things. They're talked about in the interesting facts about the Sikh faith. So it was written deliberately to not mix those two things up and get that confusion there, because a Western audience anyone can understand the Sikhi message in the way that the book has been put together. That's basically the end to end of the Why Am I Here book. It's an important read, I think, for everybody. And in terms of how it's formatted, it was done in a way so that, you know, if 4 people wanted to read it, 4 people could read a chapter and come back and ask each other the questions at the end of each chapter. So it could be done as a group, it could be done as an individual, and I think it's really important that it gets done, that if you've got children who are teenagers, that we start asking them these harder questions at a younger age. And if you've got children who are 11, 12 and onwards, that it was an important message for all of them to say, how do I understand Sikhi in a structured way? So to summarize, I think I've completed there, is the idea was to say, can I create something that I could just take a person, put it in their hand, put a book in their hand and say, go and work it out. This is what Guruji is saying to you. Go and work your life out. You know, that was the idea of the book. So thank you very much for listening into this Murak talking on and on and on. Just if I've said anything that's offended anyone, then they came up. So I'll ask the Sevadars about what the next part is of this seminar.
Yep. Thank you so much, Bhai Hardarshan Ji. We really appreciate, and I think this is a really amazing book. You have covered all aspects. I think you have. This is. I have a lot of questions. I can easily resonate. You know, these topics which you have covered in this book were primarily ego, Sikh values, virtues, sangat. You know, and especially the phase from human journey to spiritual journey. This is really, and finally, I think you have covered about the transformation. That is our real goal of every Sikh. You know, we follow and adopt teachings of Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji and transform our life according to their principles. Again, thank you so much. I want to ask Sangat to, if they have any questions, please, you can share those same in the chat box, or just unmute and ask Pai Sahib Ji. And we are really looking forward to this book in US. And if you can share with us what is the best way to order this book for US Sangat, that'll be great.
Sorry, was that did you ask what's the best way to order it?
Yes, especially for this US Sangat.
For US Sangat, yeah. What we're doing is there's 2 or 3 contacts that we're getting in Canada and USA, who will shortly be announcing the way to get the book. We have a person who can actually deliver from Canada, and is actually covering the USA too. So we're just making that live, probably Monday, tomorrow. It'll be live. Even from the Share Charity website, you should be able to put your order through, and we will forward those on to the relevant distributor in the relevant country. So it should be in the right currency too. But that's just one way of doing it. There are a few shops that are slowly going to start stocking the book too. So we'll through by Jagjit Singh, we'll forward those details onto you as they become live.
Right. Great. While we wait for the Sangat with the questions and answers, I would request Pai Jagjit Singh to share his thoughts.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Can you guys all hear me properly?
Yes, we can hear you.
So basically, in Share Charity, so you will know about the Sikhi to the Max that VG created and all the other projects. So from the children's books to the infographics to the various suite of apps. So in terms of what they do is they have strategy days where they come together, many Gursikhs from around UK who are good Sevadars, and they look at what do we think we need in the month. So about 18 months ago, they looked at if someone was to come into Sikhi. So if any of you guys have Restadars and they're showing, they might be westernized, but they're now showing an interest in Sikhi. Or if you have someone at work who's starting to talk about spiritualism, or maybe someone's had some negative experience in their life and now they're becoming more reflective on religion, etc. What is the key book that you would give them? And then while we have many good technical books, from Bhai Gurdas Vara to Bhai Ranveer Singh's autobiography to many other books, they're more technical and they're more higher level. So this was a very good, straightforward book. Now, what we've had in UK, some people have read this book, and as soon as they've read it, they said, I'm buying 50 more because I want to give it to each one of my Restadars. Another family has taken responsibility of making sure that we get this book to every prison in UK where there's Sikhs or Punjabis in them prisons, and that's already been done in terms of that. They've put the money forward and that's already being allocated. We're now crowdfunding a project where we're going to be sending this book to every secondary school in UK. So these are kind of ways that we're thinking about this book. This is not just like get a box of these books from somewhere and just take it to your Gurdwara and distribute it in your circle in your Gurdwara. No, what we want is that basically we need people, because we've already got good links in Canada, UK and Australia, but we don't have in USA. So particularly New York area, particularly California area, Chicago, wherever we've got a population, what we want is we need your assistance. So if you guys can join the Treasures of Sikhi team, I'm going to be having separate meetings with them where we can talk about how we're going to get this on Amazon in USA, have a look at all the other kind of bookstores. It will be at some point coming on Audible. And we want this to be the book over the next 5-10 years. Anyone showing interest in Sikhi, this will be the book that you will first give them, and then they could go on to other books or other reading sources. And this is and like I said, just like Jehovah's Witnesses or Gore have books, you will have this book as a resource for you. Now, if you go to certain population areas, ਕਈ ਥਾਂ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ population ਜਾਂ in Brampton, in Surrey, even in New York, you will know that you've got Jehovah's Witnesses that speak very good Punjabi just to basically go to the houses of Punjabi and convert them. And we've seen videos of them people and how good that they're Punjabi, they've learned that. So you look at the kind of steps that people have taken. In USA, you've also got people like Nikki Haley, who basically to get her political career forward, she converted to Christianity. So we want to look at these kind of things so that we don't get into these situations again. So it's about providing yourself answers, your children answers, but the wider circle. So don't just take this book and just have this book for yourself. The idea is once you get this book is that you want to proliferate it as much as you can. So once you've read it, you pass it on to someone else, but you start talking about this. This is the kind of thing that you would give to someone as a birthday present or another type of present for like a gurpurb or even a marriage or something else like that. Especially the second book, which is like VG said, is the Anand Karaj book. So we want to start thinking on a bigger scale, because we see USA as the place where we have this big void of prachar. Now, as a community, we've now become very good at doing langars for any emergency and everything else. But the concept of langar is not just food. The concept of langar is food and spiritual food, which is gyan. And so this is then, so if you're doing that Mkhana Seva, these books can be given out with that, or etc. What we want this book to be on that kind of level. So what we need is people who are willing to commit to help us market in this book in USA. And basically what we will be doing is over the next week, we will be deciding a time. If you contact the Treasures of Sikhi team, and not only help promote the Treasures of Sikhi, these webinars, but also help us so that we can talk to you about where we should be listing these books, how we should be getting the books over there, etc. And what are the formats we can get this book out to people. So one of the things that we've done in UK is we've got a lot of influencers who have been social media influencers, not just Sikh ones or Punjabi ones, but non-Sikh ones now that are starting to talk about the books. They're putting it on their social media. So we need people in America who have links with these kind of social media influencers as well, so that we can start getting these books to them and get them to start talking about these kind of books. So this is a much larger project, Prachar project that we're looking at, and that's why we need assistance. So anyone who's basically wants to help us with this, because once we've got the infrastructure for doing this in USA, once the next books comes out, whether it's the children's books or the Anand Karaj books, etc., we've already got the setup there and we can easily distribute them as well. So this is a larger thing. So this is not just about you as a person. This is about all of us trying to help as many people as possible. So as Gurbani says, the Aap Naam Japo, Apna Naam Japao. So this is basically about us becoming closer to Naam, Gurbani, the message of Gurmat, and then also proliferating that to a wider audience. So please help with that. If you've got ideas or anything else like that, come into the Treasures of Sikhi team, and then we can start talking about how we can get these things. So as well as these, like we said, we've got the infographics, and hopefully all of you are already aware. But if you're not aware, go to Google Play and Apple Play, go to Share Charity, and you've got 4 or 5 apps. And I would ask Spike the same thing to quickly do like 2 minutes on each app, so that you're aware of all the apps that are out there, and everything is free. All resources for you to make your life a better place. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Waiguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waiguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you, Pai Sahib. Just on the same note, I would request Sangat, whoever wants to help in any way or want to volunteering with us, please feel free to reach out to us. Our email ID is trayersofsikhi@gmail.com. We are looking for volunteers, especially as Pai Sahib mentioned, especially this project where we can, distribute this book and help reach out this book to other Sangat members as well. That'll be great. Thank you. Over to Paitar Sen Singh ji.
For that, we have like some QA questions from Sangat. Paidu Josinji, can you please read out?
Sure. Yes. So these are questions specifically for Paitar Sen Singh ji. Is there any appropriate age group for which is for this group? Do you recommend any age group to read this book?
Yeah, I think the question's asking about whether there's any other any children's books that I've written. I haven't written children's books, but there are Share Charity does have children's books available for, there's the Women in Sikh History there for children. There's a couple of animations that you can watch on our YouTube channel of those books as well. And there's the Sikh coloring book, which is a very popular book for children, which it isn't just about coloring. It's actually learning about Sikhi, learning about Sikh terms, crosswords, and all sorts of other things. That's a quite a good book. And also, like I said, there's a poetry books like Guru Nanak Ji, Dev Ji and the Boulder, and Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Guru Angad Dev Ji and the Yogi, various things. So there are some children's books, so they're appropriate for the younger ages from about 3 or 4 upwards. But this book in particular is more age 12 onwards. That's what it's for, that age group.
Yeah,
I can see
thank
another question here as well. It says, by Sabji, what kind of changes do you hope Gursikhs will make in their Jivan after reading this book? Very, very good question. There's not a very, very small answer to that question, because there's quite a few changes that, if I just very briefly talk, it's like removing our, our fake identities, if you like, and understanding that by asi Jodh Swarupa, start that as the foundation. I want people to start slowing down and not getting mental health issues. It's really, really important that we understand that when we look at our actions and just jo assi karm karde hain, to be able to categorize them as in tre gun maya, to say when I did that, that wasn't a good action, and it was either satoguni, it was rajoguni, or it was tamoguni, and how I raise above those three things and do actions that are adhyatam, the ones that are chotha pad, in the fourth level. So understanding how I do actions correctly, that Guruji, in line with Guruji's instructions or bhajan. Then many things about ego, understanding that when we laugh, when we cry, how to not do that in ego, or at least know when you are doing it in ego, and many things about how we love the Guru, how to stay, chit, that understanding karke, that our Simran actually gets better, and we could do it not just at Amrita Billah, but to do it throughout the day. And many things about Gun as well, about how fear, understanding Dar, how fear actually brings about other virtues in us too, and also understanding how to redirect our eyes, redirect our ears from Bob, redirect our tongue from Bob, serving. So there's many change. It's across the board in terms of the change that I'm hoping that Gursikhs, but most of all, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਝਗੜੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਪੰਥ ਵਿੱਚ, I hope that people can start re-reflecting on what sort of Sikhi are we adopting and propagating in the Panth, and come back down to earth a little bit, huh? Is there another question here? If someone ties at the start at times when they come to Kirtan and not cover their heads at other times when they are out, what should be our reaction to that person? Not cover their heads at other times when they are out. So there's a basic for a Gursikh, Jiri Nimrata, Guru Sahib tells us by our head should be covered at the start, even when we're sleeping. So if a person is doing that, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਾਵੋ ਪਿਆਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, please don't, let's not, we shouldn't try to be that we know and nobody else does. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਿਆਰ ਨਾਲ ਸਮਝਾਓ, and make sure you get understanding about why they're doing it. Sometimes people do it out of pull as well. They do it because they really don't know. So I would suggest that the Sujuan Sikh speaks to them. I think someone is asking here, is there any PDF? Now, that's not, we don't want to distribute the book in a PDF format, mainly because the book, one, it's a better experience to read it as a book. And the second thing is, what we don't want to do is just we certainly want to propagate the message, but It's to sometimes when you receive things that are just in formats like that, they're never read properly. And the interest in that I'm getting a lot of interest. I've had people who've read the book end to end, and they said they want to keep reading it. They want to read it again and again because they want to make sure they haven't missed things in it. So it's really important that we distribute it in a book format rather than just a PDF. So when someone tells you that Guruji has told them to do XYZ, how can you tell if they are not having a mental health crisis? Sometimes it's very, very difficult to see, to understand where a person is coming from. If Guruji's told someone personally to do something, generally a person that's been done to, they wouldn't go out and tell anybody else, really. So it's a very, very vague question. I'm not really sure what an example of it is, but you don't know sometimes that whether someone's actually experiencing something or they're not. But that's not for us to get doubt. If Guruji blesses us with an experience as well, then it's not that we just sit there and think, wait, there, am I going crazy or something? Sometimes the things that do happen don't have that much of an explanation. You can't explain it yourself. So it's a difficult question to answer, I think. How often should we do the reflections at the end of the chapters? That's another great question. I think some of those questions, I had some feedback as well that they're not. It's not a question where you just look at the content of the page and answer it. It's a question of looking at the contents of the pages, looking at your life, and then saying, what am I doing in that area? So some of those reflections can take a little bit more time than just say 5 minutes. And that's what I meant earlier when people were reading the book, they're feeling that they have to go back to it again to get to do the reflection. So when sometimes reflection it has to be something that we do daily. So for instance, if I find that it's a weakness that I've got, it might be that I have to keep reflecting on that thing every day until it becomes a little bit more into my day-to-day practice. For other questions, it could be that you can answer it relatively quickly. So the questions are intentionally soul searching. The questions aren't just basic questions; they're soul searching questions where you have to properly think about it, and hopefully it'll give you an idea that sometimes our life has to be might have to be redirected somewhat. I think that's all the questions. Is that right?
Yes, we don't have any additional questions. Great. I think, yeah. Paisab, do you want to discuss about the apps which Pai Jagjeet Singh was referring to?
Oh, sure. So the main applications that we've got, there's a Learn Gurmukhi app. So that was more based for people who are English who obviously speak and write in English. It was for them to learn Gurmukhi in a bit more of a gamification way, where it's quizzes. You learn a line at a time, 5 akkar, and then there's various games like Scramble and all those kind of things. So that we've got some interesting feedback from the Western people as well who used it to learn a Gurmukhi. The other application that we have is a game called Super Sant, and that's based on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's a question and answer game around history and around Sikhi, and you can actually play it, challenge people across the world basically, and have a group games and things. So that was a book for a question, 4 potential answers, and it's just a bit of fun. It's like you could do 50-50, ask the Punjabis instead of ask the audience, and phone a pundit who is is preventing us from phoning pundits when we have problems with that kind of thing because they get the questions wrong. So there's that game, and there's also obviously Sikhi to the Max on mobile, which is it's an extensive search engine on mobile, because what it allows you to do is find shabads and do a little bit more than just look at the shabad. It lets you, obviously the pad, the alt, and the various things are there, but it's got Mahanakosh connections as well. So any words that appear in Mahanakosh, you can actually do a bit more research on, and then it's got links to various steaks as well for that particular shabd. So you can learn more about the shabd by delving into like Harbans Singh's steak, for instance, and also Pandit Narayan Singh's, Vara, and also 2 or 3 Kabit Savaiya steaks as well. And there's also obviously various things like Dasam Grantabani and Rataname and a few more other things in there too. So that's quite an important research app that we've created too.
Great. Thank you so much, Paisa. We really appreciate all your time and especially connecting with this US Sangat. And we look forward to the book, and maybe in the coming session, we might invite you again to share more experience. It's really inspiring. Thank you again very much from all the Sangat. And thank you to all the Sangats who have joined today's session. And we look forward to more inspiring sessions in the coming weeks. And we will keep you updated. And please follow us on our Facebook page and Instagram page, Rated Prayers of Sikhi. Thank you again. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.